Hello and welcome to the Winner's Circle. I'm your host, Dr. Sean. So let's continue the conversation we've been having on how you can win and how we can win together. Each week we have a guest on the show who cares a lot about what's going on in our society, but who also has special expertise in an area of concern. Today we're continuing our conversation on men's health. And we can't have a conversation on men's health unless we talk about a place where men can kind of be themselves and talk, say what's on their minds. There's one place that many people don't know about, especially ladies, that men come on a very regular basis, let's say once a week, once every couple of weeks, and you're there for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and it's a place that you can just talk freely, openly with your barber, and you can find out what's going on the minds of men. Here joining me today is my barber and friend, Jorge Maldonado. He's the owner of Barbernados Barbering Salon. Jorge, welcome to the Winner's Circle.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, great to have you, man.
Yeah,
Great. You know, it was somewhere probably after about year one when you and I were talking on a regular basis and having some pretty good discussions. Maybe we'd be talking about political issues going on or current events, maybe some sporting events. And then I realized that you were having this conversation all day long.
Oh, yeah.
with everybody who comes in.
Right, correct.
So that's remarkable. Even as a physician, and I talk to people on a regular basis, I don't have so much continuity in the frequency of it.
Right.
When you went into barbering, did you have any idea that you would be doing this?
No, I mean, this is something that happened kind of organically over time.
Yes.
I started barbering when I was 18.
Okay.
So, I didn't have a lot to say, a lot to put into the conversation. I was doing more listening and learning. And over the years, I've been able to, through my own experiences and through what other people have been telling me in their lives, been able to help people out. I at least I hope I do, And, I got into barbering. It was really more because, when we grew up, things were tough for us, and a haircut meant a lot. A haircut was golden, My
Yes.
mom actually cut our hair for a good time. But haircuts were a big thing, and it makes you feel good. So that's kind of why I got into it, because I wanted to pass that forward.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And I, too, kind of had the same growing up. I mean, we want to look tight, and you can't always go somewhere on a regular basis.
Correct.
Many times I would have my own clippers and be able to do a little upkeep here and there, but to really get taken care of, you need somebody else to kind of take care of it, So I appreciate what you're saying. So I wanted to get your take on what is on the minds of men today. You get a chance to hear us come in there and vent sometimes, come in there, moaning, sometimes come hopping and skipping.
Right.
I mean, what's on our minds these days?
So that's a heavy question. You have to take into consideration a few things.
Okay.
I cut kids from, their first haircut. We give out, first haircut certificates all the way up until older gentlemen. We have a gentleman that comes by, about 3-4 times a week. He's 83 years old, and he comes in. So I get a bunch of stuff,
Big range.
But to summarize that and bring it down more to, the adult men and everything like that. Everybody has a little something different going on, but everybody's concerned with holding up to society's expectations and maybe their family's expectations. And a lot of that has to do with success, whether it be in family or in their careers. So that's we get a lot of that. We get a lot of that. So it is a heavy question.
Yes.
And we can talk just on that topic. We can talk for days.
Wow.
But yeah, we get a little bit of everything.
Okay, trying to measure up to society's expectations for us.
Correct.
Okay, and
a lot of times family, because family, although they mean well, sometimes they put a lot of pressure on people, and I see that a lot. I see that a lot on people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, is there an area that men seem to be most concerned about or worried about?
I would say, in the very least, when they're vocal about it, it's more success. Because sometimes we're conditioned as men, since we're kids,
Yes.
that we have to provide.
Right.
So sometimes not to say that we don't care about other issues, but we tend to focus on the success, you know, the money, you know what I mean, the finances. That's not to say, again, you know, and I make that a point that we don't care about other issues, but sometimes that's what spews out of us a little faster.
Right, right. I hear you. So a gentleman might be concerned about, let's say, a raise or getting a job, let's say, or some type of promotion or advancement.
So, you know, again, a lot of factors really just affect how these conversations go. One of the factors that affect us, I'm in an urban setting. So with that being said, sometimes you have a lot of guys that don't have, you know, the right guidance, you know. So sometimes they're told right after high school, you know, they have to start making money. And they don't have good, you know, leadership in their families. And that's kind of when I try to butt in and try to give people, you know, good advice, at least in my opinion, good advice. Because a lot of people just want to make money right now.
Yes.
And they're looking at the short race, not the long race. So sometimes it's just like, what can I do, you know, to make money and raise a family? I'm like, you're 19, calm down, you know, one step at a time.
Right.
So it's really just, you know, we don't have guidance all the way in these communities. And that happens a lot, and that's the worry. You know, they don't even know what career to get into. And sometimes they make poor choices because they want to make the quick choice.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've heard women, ladies, especially those that are single, talk about the challenges that they're having on the dating scene. Sometimes they'll ask, you know how it is dating out there these days, don't you? I'm like, not really.
No.
Yeah, but I've heard this come up a lot of times. But I don't hear guys so much talk about that. Do they talk about that to you? Concerns about romantic life and dating per se for singles?
Right. You know, I get a little bit of everything.
Okay.
So I got my guys that are young that just want to casually date, and some guys that don't want to date. They just want to have fun. You know, whatever that may mean. You know, fill in your own, you know, word to the blank. Then you have those guys that are more mature, a little older sometimes. Usually, they want relationships. They want something more meaningful. You know, the back and forth goes where, you know, some of these guys speaking on long-term relationships and marriages, you know, they've spent already maybe 10 years, 7 years of making bad choices, and now they've made it hard for themselves, you know? So, you know, I hear that from men too, like, oh man, it's hard to find a good woman out here, you know?
Do you?
I do hear that.
Okay.
And, you know, I try, I'm not perfect, you know, but I try to tell people, you know, sometimes, you know, before we start, you know, blaming everyone else, what are you doing everything you should? Are you the perfect catch? You
Sure.
know? Sometimes we work on ourselves, and then, you know, that flourishes outward, and, you know, we attract what we ultimately want.
Sure.
But yeah, I hear the same thing. I hear the same thing from guys. But some guys, they're out in the dating scene or the night scene, I should say, and they want to find a good girl, you know? They want to go out clubbing or to the bars or whatever the case may be, and they want a soulmate.
Oh, sure.
So that might not be, you know, at least if they're in that, you know, vicinity, they're not looking for that at the moment, you know? So it wouldn't be a great idea to go that way.
That's hilarious when you put it like that.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So now, I appreciate what you're saying. You know, I think that there are some of these conversations that, well, certainly that you're more aware of. I don't have the same venue, you know. And probably even ladies are not aware that men have the concerns that what you're talking about. You see?
This is true. I mean, we're also conditioned as men to be calloused and not show emotion sometimes. And it's contradicting because, you know, we're told, you know, don't cry. We're told, you know, nobody likes somebody that whines. And sometimes, you know, and I'm guilty. I'm guilty of it. You know, I'm not perfect. We're always a work in progress. But you know, we get to a point in our lives where, you know, we don't want to show emotion. We don't want to show vulnerability or anything like that. So it just becomes a little hard, you know, to actually have a meaningful conversation from the heart because we don't feel safe, you know, doing that.
Right.
You know, and a lot of men, I know guys, and I admire them for it, that, you know, will have a conversation in a heartbeat. That's not to say that that's all men. So I do know guys that are a lot more open with their emotions and everything else. Yeah.
So, you know, that brings us back to this point of your place is kind of a place where we can let our guard down
Right.
and not feel that we have to have all of those defenses and barriers and things like that up, that we might even have when we're, let's say, out dating and at work and even sometimes at home. So, we're not speaking our minds and speaking our hearts. There might be some miscommunications and some areas that women don't understand us. Are you aware of any areas that you think that ladies may not understand, some things that they might think about guys that are not necessarily true, something like that?
Yeah, there's always like little misconceptions, and it's a case-by-case situation,
Sure.
if you want to call it that. But, a lot of guys, going back to the topic of emotions, we don't want to show emotions. Doesn't mean we don't care,
Yeah.
That's a big one, and, guys will go through something in a relationship or work or whatever, or with their family, and maybe they don't want to talk about it, because again, it shows that quote unquote weaker side or vulnerable side, and they suppress that stuff in. It doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. It's not a I don't care about it, that's why I don't talk about it.
Right.
And that tends to be a misconception, which I can understand from a woman's point of view, or somebody who is more vocal, their point of view. I can understand it.
Right.
It's understandable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what I hear you saying is that sometimes just by virtue of being women, they talk more,
Right.
And by virtue of us being guys, we may talk less or vocalize less, but
Right.
doesn't mean that we're not saying
Right.
things. But the communication variable and
Yes.
difference can lead to some misunderstandings. I can appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, a lot of misunderstandings there.
A lot of
A lot of misunderstandings.
Oh, goodness. Okay, now what about guys are concerned about opportunities to advance these days? Do you hear that?
I hear, like a lot of guys that don't have the guidance, like I mentioned before, talk about schooling, and then, they sometimes feel like it's not for them, or, maybe that's not the route I should take, and I'm a believer in education, but I'm also a believer in education is not all.
Sure.
So you just kind of have to figure it out for yourself, but some people just want that one golden, rule, like this what you should do and make it easier for them,
Right.
It gets hard being an adult when you reach a certain age and you have to make these decisions on your own. But ultimately, guys are concerned with, success and, the way society views them, their families, spouses, etc.
You're unpacking a lot there, and you mentioned that a couple times. So you must be getting that all day long.
Oh, yeah.
How society looks at me, and trying to measure up to that. And I guess traditionally, how men have performed in society and performed for their families. And it's gotten to the be where it's not as, I would say it's not as easy in some ways, because back in the day things were different.
Oh, yeah.
Now things have changed drastically. And wow, just a lot of dynamic change. We might unpack that a little bit more after the break. I appreciate what you're offering here. We'll take a couple-minute break to let our sponsors do their thing, and then we're going to pick up on that and a couple of other items. After the break? Okay. Join you in a few.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to the Winner's Circle. Dr. Sean here, joined by our guest, Jorge Maldonado. He's the owner of Barbernados Barbering Salon. We've been having a great time here discussing men's health, men's spaces, and places that men can come, take the guard down. This happens on a regular basis. Actually, it's a type of space that it's rare and unusual, and sometimes we take it for granted, you know. This type of place is what I mean, you know. Growing up, I played on some sports teams. My dad coached football for years and years. I was in locker rooms for a while, and that was also one of these types of places where guys just talk trash, you know.
Yeah.
A little bit, you know. Now I don't play football anymore. I'm not in locker rooms. But the closest place to that is when I come and sit in your chair, you see. So, and I realized that guys are doing this all day, and so you get an interesting perspective that people don't really hear, you know, people don't really think about. So that's why I wanted to have you on. I appreciate what you've been offering. But you know, I think that this issue of guys being able to let their guard down, listen to each other, talk to each other, the government and health promotional agencies haven't, you know, they have understood this. You know, this hasn't gone over their head. And so there have been a lot of campaigns that have been set up so that guys are talking about, let's say, prostate health and heart health, all types of men's health issues. Are you hearing guys concerned about their health day in and day out generally?
I tend to hear that a little bit more with the guys that are more comfortable, guys that have been around a little longer with you, that have been in your chair a lot longer. And, you know, I notice they don't ask just anyone, you know, because I even have customers of other barbers, they come over to me, you know, they see over the years that I might have some information, or at least in a way to point them, and then they might, you know, hey, wanted to ask you something, you know? It's something a little bit more taboo to them, I guess. But I've gotten my share of questions about anything from high blood pressure, which sometimes I have also, so this is something that resonates with me, to believe it or not, even vasectomies, you know, because people are hearing things, they have misconceptions, they don't really want to ask somebody, you know, and maybe they read something and not too sure. So, you know, I have gotten a bunch of different, you know, styles of questions when it comes to men's health. Although that's not one of the main things that guys do, you know, because again, nothing's wrong with me. I'm good.
Sure.
I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm okay.
You know?
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. You know, like we get that a lot.
Right.
And sometimes we can break down that defense wall.
Right.
And, you know, talk to people and give them advice, you know.
Right.
Which usually leads to, you know, you got to go see someone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't give medical advice. I give, you know, more of a social advice. You know, this can affect you and your family, you know.
Right.
Getting away of you making money, taking care of your kids, your wife, etc. You know, that's a push, you know, for them to go get seen and checked out when it comes to certain issues.
Oh, right. Offering the why.
Yes.
Why you want to be healthy, and then you can send them in the direction where they
can. And it gets a little dangerous because sometimes guys ask specific questions, and you might have experienced something or known somebody personally, and you tell them, they're like, oh, well, I'm all right. No. That doesn't necessarily mean that, you know. I'm just letting you know that things can turn out good, but you want to go get checked, you know.
Oh, right. Excellent. Yeah, it just occurred to me that this might be an area that we can collaborate sometimes.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it's definitely been a thought in my mind, you know, as we're speaking now and even in the past. Yeah, absolutely.
How about men and children? My understanding, and this is what society has taught me, is that many times they don't think that men want to be involved in children too much.
Right.
Now, I have to say that when my kids were like babies running around, you know, I was like, okay, I'll do everything that needs to be done. But there's a period of nurturing, I realized that mom is kind of like, you know, all over them. But when they start talking and, you know, when we can start doing things and having conversations, you know,
Correct.
I want to be completely like in on all of that stuff. But I don't think that society many times anticipates or expects us to be involved. Do you hear guys talk about their children and their concerns about their children?
I do. I do. Believe it or not, most men that, not all, but most men that have children, they bring them up a lot.
Yes.
You know? There's a bunch of guys who are what, you know, it's trendy now to say girl dads.
Oh, right.
Right? So there's a lot of guys that are girl dads, and I forget they have kids until they bring them up. And then some of these customers I know names, you know, ages,
yes,
you know, what they're going through, and et cetera.
Wow.
But guys do, yeah. You know, and you have the difference between, you have dads that are all about the babies, man. When they're babies, man, I love it. You have some that when they're smaller, some teenagers, you know, we're not all the same. You know, I guess women maybe have the upper hand on us on that because that maternal instinct kicks right in. Some dads, not that they pick and choose, is that, like you said, maybe they enjoy certain times in their kids' lives a little bit more and they want to be more active. But guys really, you know, I see that some guys especially are very vocal about their kids. They want to be very involved, you know, and they want to make sure that they're there for everything, even though it might not seem, because let's say women are usually the ones that are, you know, they're more physically for a lot of the things while the guys chasing the bread, you know? So, but I do hear guys talk about their kids a lot.
You know, the operative part that I heard you say is, even though it may not seem
Correct.
that they're involved or want to be involved, therein lies, I think, a misunderstanding, a potential for misunderstanding. Guys want to be involved. It may not seem that we do, but we really want to be involved.
Correct.
Yeah, I appreciate that, the way you offered it also. So now, I consider you an expert on a lot of these, like say, grooming. And I wanted to get your take on men's grooming. Women have a beauty routine. It can take 30 minutes, I mean, you know, a day almost, you know. But probably guys don't have anything called a beauty routine.
Right, correct.
You know, some sort of a routine, maybe it's just taking off your shirt, you know, brush your teeth, you know. But what do you consider a pretty good routine for guys?
Well, you know, I appreciate you mentioning me being an expert, and just want to elaborate a little bit on
Sure,
that. You know,
please.
we have, and again, just to correct you a little bit, it's Barbernados Barbering Lounge.
Yes.
So it's a barbershop, right?
Oh, yes.
So it's a barbershop.
Yes.
Cool. But I'm a licensed cosmetologist.
Okay.
I went to school, got my license, and I've been practicing for maybe 13 years, 14 years, you know, professionally. So this is not an overnight thing for me. And I've learned a lot over the years outside. We learned a bulk of it outside of cosmetology school. We learn a lot of important things in cosmetology school, but we learn a lot even after. A lot of guys, man, you know, they kind of get put on the back burner, it seems like to me, when they're kids. They're not told, you know, you should do this, do that. You know, it's like the minimum. You know, make sure you shower, you know, you wipe, you know, you do your hair, you know what I mean? But we're not being really walked through certain things. And naturally, I have 2 daughters, so naturally women do go out of their way more to, you know, figure these things out. Sometimes guys don't.
Right.
So, you know, we do have these conversations. And again, sometimes for guys it's embarrassing to talk about certain things. It shows vulnerability again. So, you know, in a barbershop setting, how do we bring things up? To break the tension, we joke around. We're in the summertime, for example, you see somebody with sandals, and you're like, man, why are you walking around with your toes looking like that, man, with your dry feet? And, you know, and then, you know, you tell them like, yo, man, it's 2021, you know, go to the nail salon, get a pedicure, you know what I mean? You know, clean up under your nails, you know, etc. So we have our subtle ways. If you want to call it subtle, you know, but I know guys would rather be insulted a little bit. They'd be pulled to the side. Hey, listen, man, you know, I'm you know, you're smelling a little something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I've had to do, unfortunately. But, you know, most guys don't have an actual routine, you know. I sell a facial scrub, for example. I encourage guys when I feel like they need to exfoliate a little bit more, because everybody's different, everybody's skin's different. I'm like, look, we have this, you know, scrub. You can get it wherever you want, but I have it here. You know, guys, 10 minutes after they leave the barbershop, they forgot about it.
Wow.
So I like to have certain things there. But as far as a full-blown routine, guys do not, man. Not normally, no.
No. So you mentioned hair and face, I'm sure, I guess.
Yes.
So hair, face, and nails, I hear you alluding to.
Yes.
Pedicure, I mean, I guess that's where
Right.
the big neglect would be.
Right. A lot of people, they forget about it. Then they didn't want to walk around with the open toes, and you know.
Yes.
And it's like, look, that's fine, but you know, that's
Right.
no problem with that. Just take care of that, you know.
Excellent. And now at your barbering lounge, what you do, the part you focus on, facial hair and hair.
Right.
cuts?
So everything basically, like I tell people, everything above the cape, the neckline, you know. So we do everything from haircuts, hot shaves. We do facials. We also do waxing. We wax, the inside of the nose in here, not the whole thing, because that's also unhealthy.
Right.
You know, and the ears. You know, we get a little fuzzy there the older we get. We tend to grow hair in places that we don't want.
Sure.
And a little less where we do want it.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. And I guess eyebrows, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we are modern men. You know, we clean up our eyebrows, you know, and stuff like that for the most. The guys that need it, not all guys need it.
Sure.
Some guys are lucky. I'm not so lucky. I clean mine up a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
I tell people, you know, some guys, you know, they walk in there with these bushy, you know, eyebrows. And I'm like, let's clean them up. I don't do my eyebrows. I don't want to do your eyebrows. I want to clean them up.
Right.
You know? So sometimes that verbiage makes the difference. Like, all right, don't do them. Just clean them. All right, cool.
Right.
You know, now you look human again, you know?
Yes.
So sometimes we got to break them out of those stereotypes that doing certain things is not for men.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like getting nails done.
Yeah.
No guys want to get their nails done.
Right.
You know.
Right. You don't get them done.
Right.
You know? You get them maintenance.
Get a maintenance. That's yeah. The wording does make a big difference.
It makes a big difference. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Great. So now you alluded to something earlier that I thought was interesting, and that was aside from getting a more cleaner look and organization about how we look, guys are walking out with something else.
Yes.
And feeling better, more confident. I wonder
Right.
if you could speak on that a little bit.
So everybody knows the barbershop is, let's go there, let's get a haircut and go home.
Right.
But the guys that visit regularly know that it's much more than that.
Yes.
Much more than that. This is the difference between confidence and not having confidence on an interview, on a date, you know? It does build us up as men. It gives us that confidence that we need. You know, it's like the old saying, once you look good, you feel good.
Sure.
You know, and we're able to succeed and excel a lot better that way.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and not to mention the therapy that you get there, you know. Some
Right.
guys come there, I'm like, I'll charge you for the therapy session, haircut's free, you know, I'll make more money.
That's perfect. And you're right. We, personally, I walk in one way, perhaps a little neutral, and then I come out feeling more confident,
Right.
hopping and skipping, like, okay,
Right.
look at me now, world, I'm ready for you.
A couple bits of hair, if you keep it maintained, just a little bit, but you feel so much lighter. And I
Excellent.
think it's more of a mental thing.
Perfect. And we'll close out. I want to understand you have a big event coming up.
Yes. So every year we have an event for the community. We tend to do a couple events, but this is our main staple event. It's our back to school event. We have it at the end of August. We have not yet picked a date. I'm still waiting on the city to figure out certain things when it comes to schools opening back up. But what we do is we give out free haircuts for kids. We give out food. We try to have like a bounce house or something fun, a DJ. So it's full of activities. We've had the police department come by, talk to kids, the fire department, so it becomes an educational thing too. And it brings the community together. And with all that, we also give out book bags, notebooks, pens, pencils. We do all that. But all of our efforts come from donations. The barbershop donates their time and also a lot of the supplies. But every year we ask for donations. So I open that up to anyone who wants to reach out and help us out. I'd be more than willing to hear out any suggestions on anything else, because I don't want it to just be like, here, take this.
Sure.
If somebody wants to help out that way, great. But if you guys want to be involved, I'm all ears and I'm all for it. So
How would they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me on my email, barbernadosmanagement@gmail.com.
Perfect.
We also have, Facebook and Instagram, Barbernados Barbering Lounge.
Excellent. And when we post this show, we'll post that information along for those people that want
Perfect.
to participate and contribute.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on to the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, guys, there you have it. Jorge Maldonado. We had him on the show because he and his shop are really pillars in our society, pillars in our community, our local urban community, and doing a lot more than just cutting hair, really keeping men built up, giving us a place where we can come and be ourselves, and also where we can figure out how do we grow, how we move that next level. So look forward to having you present for this discussion on Mondays at 2 o'clock, Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. And wherever you found this show, look for us weekly. Until then, We'll see you guys. Take care. Keep winning.